From rankings to reality, the global race to clean energy. Imagine this block in front of you. It represents all the energy humanity used in 2023. Not just electricity, but also transportation, heating, industry, everything. Now, where did that energy come from? Well, the biggest chunk was oil, supplying about 35.6% of our total needs. Next came coal, 29.7%. Then natural gas at 26.2%. Hydropower, 2.8%. Nuclear, 1.8%. And all other renewables, solar, wind, geothermal, just 3.9%. That means only 8.5% of our energy came from clean, low-carbon sources. And that is a problem. Because most of our carbon emissions, our contribution to climate change, come from the way we produce and use energy. If we want to reach net zero emissions, we have to get that 8.5% to nearly 100. Sounds impossible, right? But before we dive into solutions, let's zoom out for a moment and look at where we're starting from. According to the 2024 Environmental Performance Index, or EPI, Estonia ranks first in the world for environmental cleanliness. Estonia's top spot reflects a strong commitment to climate policy, renewable energy, and pollution control. In second place, Luxembourg, recognized for its excellent water quality, waste management, and low pollution levels. Germany comes in third, continuing its long tradition of environmental leadership. And Canada ranks 28th, an improvement over the last decade. It's doing especially well in environmental health, ranking 9th globally in that category. But it's still facing challenges, especially in areas like fisheries, where it ranks a troubling 127th. The EPI isn't just a scoreboard, it's a mirror, a way to reflect on what's working and where we need to do better. But no matter where countries rank, they all face the same massive challenge: how to power our future cleanly. Now, let's go back to that energy block. We're using huge amounts of fossil fuels. But what would it actually take to power the world entirely with clean energy? Let's run the numbers. A typical large onshore wind turbine produces about 6 gigawatt hours of electricity per year. Last year, the world used about 180,000 terawatt hours. That's 180 million gigawatt hours. So if we relied only on wind, we'd need about 30 million turbines. And if each one requires 30 acres of land, we're talking 900 million acres. That's nearly the size of US farmland. Solar is more land efficient, but not by as much as you'd hope. Under average conditions, it would still require around 200 million acres. Now here's the kicker. That doesn't even account for intermittency, days with no wind or sun. To compensate, you might need twice or even 5 times as much renewable capacity if you don't have massive storage systems. So yes, at first glance, the raw numbers look grim, but here's something that completely changes the picture. When we talk about energy, we're often measuring the wrong thing. Let me explain. Burning coal to produce electricity wastes about 2/3 of the energy as heat. Then we lose a bit more transmitting it to homes, then even more in inefficient light bulbs or engines. So from 1,000 units of energy in coal, you might end up with just 15 units of actual light from a bulb. Now switch to a wind turbine. You skip the combustion stage entirely. From 1,000 units of electrical energy, you can get over 47 units of useful energy, 3 times more than coal. So when we adjust for these losses using the substitution method, it turns out the world actually got 13.8% of its energy from renewables and another 4% from nuclear. That's 17.8% total from low-carbon sources, double the number we started with. We're not at 8.5% clean, we're already close to 18%. But here's another twist. Only 20% of global energy use is electricity. The other 80% is transport and heating, cars, trucks, homes, factories. And that's where things get exciting. Because when we electrify those things, make them run on electricity instead of fuel, we not only make them cleaner, we make them way more efficient. Take cars. A gasoline car turns only about 25% of the energy and fuel into motion. An electric vehicle, closer to 90%. Same for heating. A gas boiler might be 90% efficient at best, but a heat pump, it can reach over 300% efficiency, because instead of generating heat, it moves it from one place to another. A 2021 study suggested that by electrifying transport and heating, we could cut global energy demand by 40%. So instead of trying to fill a gigantic energy block with renewables, we can fill a much smaller one. And we're already a good way there. Let's look at one of the boldest ideas out there, the Sahara Desert. It's one of the sunniest places on Earth. A solar panel in the Sahara generates 3 times more electricity than in Germany. A 1,000 square kilometer solar farm here could supply nearly all of the United States' energy needs. Scale it up to 10,000 square kilometers, and on paper, you could power the entire world. But there's a catch. Well, actually, there are a few. Harsh desert conditions, political instability across 11 countries, massive infrastructure costs, environmental impacts. So far, every big project in the Sahara has failed. Not because it's impossible, but because reality is more complex than the math. So where does that leave us? Can we power the world with 100% clean energy? Here's the honest answer. Almost. But not quite. Some sectors, like aviation, shipping, and cement production, are just too hard to electrify with current technology. That's why every serious model, like the UK's 2050 Clean Energy Plan, still includes a tiny amount of fossil fuels. The key is to capture the carbon emissions where possible and offset the rest with things like reforestation or carbon removal. Because it's called net zero, not absolute zero. If we can get the world to 90 to 95% clean energy and manage the rest responsibly, we're in good shape. So what can you do? Well, if you can, electrify your car, switch to a heat pump, use efficient appliances, support clean energy policies, or work in renewable energy engineering or infrastructure. Even small changes reduce our need for dirty energy and make the system more efficient overall. And when clean electricity becomes the cheapest option, as it's rapidly becoming, you won't just switch because it's good for the planet. You'll switch because it's cheaper, easier, and better. We started this journey thinking clean energy was out of reach, but now we see it's not impossible. It's just urgent. So let's get to work. Because the clean energy future isn't just necessary, it's absolutely achievable. And it starts with us.